We don't kill humans, but humans sure as hell kill us. The no-killing humans rule didn't do jack shit for my entire Iridian mercenary unit, wiped out by a single human in a bloodbath that left purple Iridian guts splattered on the walls. I tossed back my drink, the bitter liquid burning my throat. The dingy cantina's dim light cast shadows across the battle scars etched into my leathery skin. The rookie across from me stared, mandibles twitching nervously. "Look, kid," I growled, slamming the empty mug on the table. "You're green as Zorlak slime, so let me make this real simple. Iridians like us, we're the meanest mercs in the galaxy, but we got one rule: no killing humans." The rookie's compound eyes widened. "Why, humans are primitive screw-ups. What's to fear?" I chuckled darkly, putting my feet up. "What's to fear? Fracking everything. See these scars? Human gave me those, lost most my unit to one of them." The rookie leaned in, hanging on every word. I took a long drag from my smouldering cigar, exhaling a cloud of smoke. 20 years back, during the Iridian Zorlak War, Zorlaks hired my unit to guard some shithole mining colony, getting slaughtered by the Empire, so they brought in the only species crazy enough to fight for 'em: humans. I shook my head, remembering that fateful day. Carl Bonecrusher Scorer. Mean son of a bitch, even for a human. Didn't know it yet, but that bastard was about to show me just what his kind was capable of, and why we don't fracking kill 'em. I tossed back another swig of the putrid liquor, feeling it scorch down my throat. The rookie across the table was rapt, mandibles quivering as he leaned in closer. "You gotta understand, these humans looked weak as shit when they showed up. No claws, no armor, soft pink skin. I thought it was a bad joke, but then I saw that crazy fucker Scorer." I shut my eyes, the memories of that blood-soaked day flooding back as vivid as ever. The shrill whine of pulse rifles, the gut-wrenching screams, the coppery scent of blood and charred flesh. The Zorlaks were pinned the fuck down, taking heavy casualties from our unit's assault. But then Scorer, he rallies a squad of humans and charges headlong into the firestorm, straight towards our forces. I ain't never seen any species move like that, fast as a Zardonian viper, savage as a wounded Kralnar beast. And Scorer himself, he was a goddamn demon, blasting Iridians left and right with deadly aim. The rookie's eyes were saucers. Shit, how'd any of them survive that? Weren't your guys packing way heavier firepower? Damn straight we were, but these humans, they just wouldn't die. You'd blast one, he'd get back up. They'd just keep fighting no matter how many of their own were cut down or how badly shot up they got. They didn't know how to quit. I paused, tossing my cigar stub to the floor and grinding it under my heel. The worst was yet to come in this fucked-up story. But here's the real shit, kid. One of our guys' nastiest warrior in the unit manages to corner one of Scorer's men. Poor pink bastard was leaking blood all over, barely standing, and that's when I realized why we don't ever fracking kill humans. Gruss fell silent, the weight of the memory heavy in the air. The rookie was on the edge of his seat, barely breathing. At the Iridian, he had his rifle aimed right between Carl's eyes. I could see his finger tightening on the trigger, see the rage and hate in his eyes. And Carl, that crazy son of a bitch, he just stood there, calm as can be, like he was daring the Iridian to do it. Gruss took a swig, the liquor failing to dull the sharpness of the memory. For a long moment nobody moved. It was like the whole battlefield was holding its breath. Then, real slow, the Iridian lowered his weapon, and he said something I never thought I'd hear from one of our kind. The rookie leaned forward. "What? What did he say?" "He said, go, take your man and go. But if I see you again, I won't hesitate." And Carl, he just nodded, picked up his wounded soldier and walked away, straight through the Iridian lines, bold as brass. Gruss shook his head, still disbelieving after all these years. "I've never seen anything like it. It was like Carl had cast a spell over the Iridian, made him see something beyond the killing and the orders." The rookie sat back, trying to process it all. "So what happened after that? Did the humans win?" Gruss laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "Win? No, the Zorlaks still fell, but that's not the point. The point is, Carl showed me something that day. Showed all of us, really." He leaned forward, locking eyes with the rookie. He showed us that there's always another way, that even in the midst of all this blood and death, there's still a choice. And that's why we don't kill humans. Because they remind us of that choice. They remind us of our own fracking humanity, even when we're knee-deep in the shit. Grus sat back, draining the last of his drink. And that, rookie, is a lesson you'd best not forget, because out here in the arse end of the galaxy, it's the only thing that'll keep you sane, the only thing that'll keep you from becoming just another murderous cog in the machine. He slammed the mug down, the sound echoing through the cantina. The rookie nodded slowly, a new understanding dawning in his eyes. Grus just grunted, signaling for another round. The story wasn't over, not by a long shot, but for now the rookie had heard enough to understand the weight of the legacy he was inheriting. The legacy of the human who had shown mercy in the midst of merciless slaughter. The legacy of Carl Bonecrusher Scorer. Grus leaned back, the dim cantina light glinting off his battle-scarred face as he took another swig of the harsh liquor. The rookie across from him sat in stunned silence, trying to process the incredible tale. That Iridian warrior, he had the human dead to rights. Rifle raised, finger on the trigger, ready to blast him to atoms. But then... Grus shook his head, a wry smile tugging at his lips. Damnedest thing I ever saw. Carl just talked to him like they were old friends, not mortal enemies in a bloody war. The rookie leaned forward, mandibles twitching. What did he say? Grus chuckled. Hell if I know. My translator glitched out at the crucial moment. But whatever it was, it worked. That Iridian, he lowered his rifle. Slowly, like it weighed a ton. And then he reached out a hand, helped that wounded human to his feet, like he was made of glass. The rookie's eyes widened. Holy shit! You're telling me, Grus grunted. News of that spread through the Iridian ranks like wildfire. Suddenly the humans weren't just sacks of meat to be blown apart. They were something else. Something that made even the most hardened warriors hesitate. Grus took another long pull from his mug, savoring the burn. Course, the brass didn't like that one bit. Iridian High Command started cracking down, threatening to shoot any warrior caught showing mercy. But it was too late. The seed had been planted. The rookie shook his head in disbelief. So what, the Iridians just laid down arms, surrendered? Grus barked out a harsh laugh. Surrender? The Iridian Empire, not fucking likely, but things changed. In the next battle, I saw Iridians flinching before they fired. Some even went out of their way to avoid human casualties. It was surreal. The grizzled mercenary leaned forward, eyes intense. But the real kicker came in the final battle. The Iridian commander, a mean son of a bitch named Krelok, came face to face with Carl on the battlefield. I thought for sure old Bonecrusher was done for. Krelok was a legend. Most ruthless bastard in the whole damn Iridian military. Grus paused, letting the tension hang in the smoky air. The rookie held his breath. But then instead of ripping each other to shreds, they talked. Right there in the middle of the battlefield, with lasers flying and soldiers dying all around them, they just talked. The rookie sat back stunned. What did they say? Grus drained the last of his drink, slamming the mug down on the table. Fuck if I know. But what happened next? That I'll never forget. Krelok and Carl, they clasped forearms, a warrior's greeting. Then Krelok turned to his troops and bellowed an order. And just like that, the shooting stopped. The old mercenary's gaze turned distant, seeing the events play out in his mind's eye. Weapons lowering, soldiers on both sides staring at each other in confusion and disbelief. An eerie silence falling over the battlefield as the reality sank in. The war was over. Grus blinked, coming back to the present. He fixed the rookie with a piercing stare. You see, kid, that's the power of the humans. They've got a way of getting under your skin, making you question everything you thought you knew. They're not like any other species out there. Grus leans back, eyes distant as he recalls that fateful moment. The rookie hangs on his every word, scarcely breathing. There they stood, Carl and Commander Krelok, face to face amidst the chaos of battle. Soldiers on both sides watched in stunned disbelief as the two began to talk, their voices carrying over the din. Grus takes a sip of his drink, the burn grounding him in the present. Karl spoke first. "Commander Krelok," he said, "I've seen you fight. You're a brave leader, fiercely loyal to your troops. I respect that." Krelok's face was unreadable, but he didn't raise his weapon. He let Karl continue. "But look around you." Karl gestured to the battlefield, to the bodies of Iridians and humans alike. "Is this what you want your legacy to be? An endless cycle of killing and revenge?" The rookie leans forward. What did Krelok say to that? Grus smiles grimly. At first, nothing. He just stared at Karl, his grip tight on his pulse rifle, but then slowly he spoke. "My loyalty is to the Iridian Empire," he said. "I will fight and die for my people, as I have sworn to do." Karl nodded, like he'd expected that answer. "I understand," he said, "but there comes a time when even the most loyal soldier must question his orders, when he must ask himself if the cost is too high." Grus shakes his head, still marveling at Karl's audacity. To speak to a Iridian commander like that in the heat of battle, I thought for sure Krelok would gun him down on the spot. But he didn't. He lowered his rifle just a fraction. "What would you have me do, human?" Krelok asked. "Surrender? Betray my people?" Karl shook his head. "No, I would have you lead, Commander. Lead your people to a better future. One where Iridians and humans can coexist in peace. It won't be easy. It will take courage, the kind of courage I know you possess. But it's the only way to end this war, once and for all." The rookie is wide-eyed, hanging on every word. And then what happened? Grus drains his glass, slamming it down on the table. What happened next? Well, that's a story for another time, kid. Another drink and maybe I'll tell you. But for now, just know this. On that day, on that battlefield, something changed. A seed was planted, one that would change the course of the war and the galaxy itself. The rookie nods slowly, a new understanding dawning in his eyes. Grus just signals for another round, the ghost of a smile on his battle-scarred face. The younger Iridian sat back, mandibles slack with disbelief. "So what? The war just ended? Just like that?" Grus chuckled, a low grating sound. "Not quite, kid. Wars don't end overnight, not even ones as bloody as that. But something had shifted, something fundamental." He leaned forward, the dim cantina light glinting off his battle-scarred carapace. "It started with small things. Iridian patrols would accidentally miss human encampments. Supply drops would go astray, ending up in the hands of hungry human civilians. And in firefights, well..." Grus mimed firing a pulse rifle, his aim deliberately wide. "Let's just say a lot of Iridians suddenly developed a bad case of the shakes when it came time to pull the trigger." The younger Iridian's brow furrowed. "But why? What could possibly make hardened Iridian warriors go soft like that?" Grus leaned back, a knowing glint in his eye. "Rumors flew like shrapnel, kid. Some said Karl had worked some kind of human voodoo on the commander's mind. Others whispered about a secret human weapon, something that could turn a warrior's heart to mush." He drained the last of his drink, slamming the mug down with a resounding clang. But the truth, it was simpler than that. It was respect. The younger Iridian cocked his head, confused. Grus sighed, searching for the words. "See, we Iridians, we'd always seen humans as soft, weak. Hell, they're skin tears if you so much as look at it wrong. But Karl and his ilk, they showed us a different kind of strength." Grus tapped a clawed finger against his temple. "The strength in here, kid. The strength to stand up for what you believe in, even when the whole damn galaxy is telling you to sit down and shut up. The courage to look your enemy in the eye and see a person, not just a target." He fixed the younger Iridian with a piercing stare. "That's why we don't kill humans, kid. Not because they're weak, but because, in a screwed-up universe full of folk who only know how to destroy, they're the only ones with the guts to build something better." Grus pushed back from the table, rising to his feet with a grunt. The younger Iridian scrambled to follow, his mind reeling. As they stepped out into the neon-soaked night of the space station, Grus paused, turning to face his young companion. "Remember this, kid. When you're out there, finger on the trigger, staring down a human on the other side of your rifle sights, remember that they're fighting for something. Just like you. Just like all of us sorry bastards." With that, the old warrior turned and strode off into the pulsing crowd, leaving the younger Iridian to grapple with the weight of his words. The neon lights flickered and danced, casting eerie shadows across the younger Iridian's face as he stood there, lost in thought. Grus's words echoed in his mind, a relentless refrain. Respect, courage, fighting for something greater than oneself. These were not the words of a weak species, a prey species. These were the words of warriors, of beings who understood the true cost of conflict. And yet, for all their strength, for all their indomitable will, the humans chose mercy. They chose to see the Iridians not as enemies but as individuals, as people, with hopes and fears and dreams of their own. It was a staggering realization, one that shook the young Iridian to his core. All his life he had been taught to view humans as little more than vermin, to be exterminated without a second thought. But now... He shook his head, his mandibles twitching with agitation. Grus's tale had upended everything he thought he knew, everything he thought he understood about his place in the universe. As he stood there, lost in the swirling maelstrom of his thoughts, a figure bumped into him, jolting him back to reality. It was a human, a young male, his soft pink skin a stark contrast to the Iridian's hard, chitinous exterior. For a moment the two stared at each other, the human's eyes wide with surprise and a hint of fear. The Iridian's hand twitched, an instinctive reach for a weapon that wasn't there. But then, unbidden, Grus's words floated to the surface of his mind. The strength to stand up for what you believe in, the courage to look your enemy in the eye and see a person. Slowly, deliberately, the Iridian relaxed his stance, his claws uncurling from their aggressive posture. He inclined his head, a slight nod of acknowledgement. The human blinked, confusion and surprise warring on his face. Then hesitantly he returned the nod, a small uncertain smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. And then he was gone, vanishing into the crowd, leaving the Iridian to ponder the significance of that fleeting moment of connection. A connection between two beings, two warriors, from opposite sides of a war that had defined their lives. Grus watched from the shadows, a satisfied smile creasing his battle-worn face. The kid was learning slowly but surely, learning that the universe was not as black and white as the Iridian Empire would have them believe. Learning that sometimes the greatest victories were not won on the battlefield, but in the hearts and minds of those who fought. Grus leans forward, his eyes glinting in the dim light of the cantina. "You have to understand, kid. Change doesn't come easy to the Iridian Empire. For generations we've been taught that strength is everything, that to show mercy is to show weakness." The younger Iridian nods, his mandibles twitching. "So what happened? Did the Empire just ignore these radical thinkers?" Grus barks out a laugh. "Ignore them, no. The High Command, they did what they always do when faced with a threat to the status quo. They tried to crush it." He takes a swig of his drink, his voice growing harder. "They started cracking down on anyone who spoke out in favor of the humans, scholars, diplomats, even warriors who had fought alongside Karl and his men. They were branded as traitors, as cowards who had been corrupted by human weakness." The younger Iridian's eyes widen. "What did they do to them?" Grus's expression darkens. "What do you think? They were arrested, interrogated, some even executed. The Empire, it doesn't tolerate dissent." He sighs, his shoulders slumping. "But the thing about ideas, kid, once they take root, they're damn hard to kill. The more the High Command tried to suppress talk of the humans, the more it spread. Whispers in the barracks, graffiti on the walls of conquered worlds. The legend of Karl Bonecrusher Scorer and his band of merciful warriors." The younger Iridian leans back, processing this. "So what happened next? Did the Empire just give up, embrace human ideals?" Grus snorts. "Not likely, but they couldn't ignore what was happening either. More and more Iridians were starting to question the old ways, to wonder if there might be another path. He drains the last of his drink, slamming the mug down on the table. And that, kid, is where things get really interesting, because it turns out the humans, they weren't done with us yet. Not by a long shot. The younger Iridian opens his mouth to ask another question, but Gruss cuts him off with a wave of his hand. But that's a story for another time, kid. For now, just remember this. The universe, it's a lot bigger and a lot more complicated than the Empire would have us believe. And sometimes, just sometimes, it's the smallest act of mercy that can change everything. Gruss grins, his eyes glinting with mischief as he recalls the unlikely alliance. Oh, you should have seen the looks on the faces of the Iridian High Command when those human ships dropped out of hyperspace, jaws on the floor, every last one of them. He laughs, a deep rumbling sound that echoes through the cantina. But credit where it's due, they didn't hesitate. The moment the humans arrived, the Iridians were right there alongside them, ready to take the fight to the Zorgans. The younger Iridian leans forward, his eyes wide with excitement. What was it like fighting alongside the humans? Were they as fierce as the stories say? Gruss takes a swig of his drink, savoring the burn. Fierce? Kid, you don't know the half of it. Those humans, they fought like demons possessed. They had tech, the likes of which we'd never seen. Weapons that could punch through Zorgan armor like it was made of paper. He shakes his head, remembering the carnage. But it wasn't just their tech, it was the way they fought. They didn't just go toe-to-toe with the Zorgons, they outsmarted them. They used tactics, strategies, stuff the Zorgons had never seen before. Gruss's voice drops to a whisper, his eyes distant. I remember this one battle on some backwater planet the Zorgons had occupied. The Iridians, they were pinned down, taking heavy casualties. It looked like it was all over. He pauses, taking another sip of his drink. But then the humans, they pulled off this crazy maneuver. They sent in a team of infiltrators, had them sneak right into the heart of the Zorgan encampment. And then, just when the Zorgans thought they had us beat, the infiltrators struck. Gruss's eyes light up with excitement. They sabotaged the Zorgans' power generators, took out their communications, even managed to assassinate a couple of their high-ranking officers. It was chaos, pure and simple, and in that chaos, the Iridians saw their chance. He leans back, a satisfied smile on his face. They hit the Zorgans with everything they had, and with the humans right there alongside them, they didn't stand a chance. It was a rout, a complete and total victory. The younger Iridian shakes his head in amazement. Incredible, and that was just one battle. Gruss nods. One of many, kid. The Iridians and the humans, they fought side by side across a dozen worlds, pushing the Zorgans back inch by bloody inch. It was a war like no other, a war that changed the face of the galaxy forever. He drains the last of his drink, slamming the mug down on the table. But the real change, the real lasting impact, it wasn't on the battlefield. It was in the hearts and minds of the Iridian people. Because for the first time in our history, we saw the value of cooperation, of working together with other species towards a common goal. Gruss looks the younger Iridian dead in the eye, his voice deadly serious. And that, kid, is the true legacy of the Human-Iridian Alliance, not just the battles they won, but the future they made possible. A future where the Iridian Empire is more than just a conquering force, but a partner in the great galactic community. The younger Iridian nods slowly, absorbing the weight of Gruss's words. I had no idea, Gruss. The history books, they never told the story like that. Saru snorts. Of course they didn't. The High Command, they like to pretend like they did it all on their own, like the humans were just a minor footnote, but those of us who were there, we know the truth. The younger Iridian's mandibles twitch with excitement as Gruss recounts the epic battle against the Zorgans. Tell me more about the humans' bravery, he urges, leaning forward. How did they face down those Zorgan bastards? Gruss's eyes glint with the memory of hard-fought battles. The Zorgans hit us with everything they had, he growls. Wave after wave of their shock troops, each one more vicious than the last. They tore through our defenses like they were made of paper. He takes a swig of his drink, slamming the mug down. But the humans, they never wavered. They stood their ground, even as the Zorgons closed in on all sides. I saw one human soldier, a female, hold off a dozen Zorgons with nothing but a pulse rifle and a combat knife. The younger Iridian's eyes widen. A female? I thought human females were supposed to be weak. Gruss barks out a laugh. Kid, you don't know shit about humans. Their females are just as tough as their males, maybe even tougher. I saw that soldier take a claw to the gut and keep fighting, her blood mixing with the Zorgons on the battlefield. He shakes his head, admiration in his voice. But it wasn't just their fighting spirit that made the difference. It was the way they looked out for each other, and for us. I saw a human medic run through a hail of acid spit to drag a wounded Iridian to safety. He got burned pretty bad, but he didn't stop until that Iridian was out of the line of fire. The younger Iridian nods slowly, processing this new information. I had no idea the humans were so selfless. Gruss smiles, a rare softness in his eyes. That's the thing about humans, kid. They've got this crazy idea that every life is valuable, even the lives of their enemies. They'll fight like demons to protect the innocent, no matter the cost to themselves. He leans back, his gaze distant. After the war, the Iridian High Command knew we couldn't go back to the old ways. We'd seen too much, learned too much from the humans, so they made a choice that would change everything. The younger Iridian leans forward, hanging on every word. The Iridian-Human Alliance, he breathed. Gruss nods. A secret pact forged in the fires of war. A promise that the Iridians and humans would stand together against any threat, any enemy that dared to challenge the peace we'd fought so hard to win. He fixes the younger Iridian with a piercing stare. But it's more than just a military alliance, kid. It's a bond of trust, of friendship even. The humans, they've become our partners in every sense of the word. They share their technology, their knowledge, even their culture with us. And in return, we've sworn to protect them, to fight alongside them, no matter the odds. The younger Iridian sits back, his mind reeling with the implications. An alliance with the humans, a species he'd been taught to fear and despise. It seems impossible, and yet... Gruss drains the last of his drink, slamming the mug down on the table. The universe is changing, kid. The old ways, the ways of conquest and slaughter, they're dying out. And the Iridians, we've got a choice to make. We can either cling to the past and watch as the galaxy leaves us behind, or we can embrace the future and take our place among the stars, side by side with the humans. He rises to his feet, towering over the younger Iridian. That's why we don't kill humans, kid, because they're not just our allies, they're our future, and we'd have to be damn fools to throw that away. With that, Gruss strides away, leaving the younger Iridian to ponder the weight of his words. The alliance with the humans, the secret pact that binds their two species together, it's a lot to take in. But as he sits there in the dimly lit cantina, the younger Iridian can't help but feel a spark of something he's never felt before. Hope? Hope for a future beyond the endless cycle of war and death. Hope for a galaxy where Iridians and humans can stand together, not as enemies, but as friends. And for the first time in his life, the younger Iridian begins to understand the true meaning of strength. The younger Iridian's mandibles twitched as he leaned back, the weight of Gruss's revelations settling heavily upon him. So, what happens now? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. If the humans are so important to the Iridians, why don't we see more of them around? Gruss sighed, a deep, weary sound that seemed to echo through the very bones of the dingy cantina. He reached for his drink, his clawed hand trembling slightly as he wrapped it around the glass. Because, kid, he said, his voice heavy with the weight of years, the universe is a cruel and unpredictable place. Just when we thought we'd found a way to move forward, to build a better future, the humans were gone. The younger Iridian frowned, his brow furrowing in confusion. Gone? He repeated, leaning forward. What do you mean, gone? Gruss took a long, slow sip of his drink, the amber liquid burning a path down his throat. He closed his eyes for a moment, as if steeling himself for the words that were to come. It happened without warning, he said, his voice barely audible over the din of the cantina. One day the humans were there, the next, silence, no communications, no signals, nothing. It was as if they'd vanished into thin air. The younger Iridian's eyes widened, his mandibles falling slack with shock. But how? He breathed, his voice trembling. What could have happened to them? Gruss shook his head, his battle-scarred face twisting into a grimace. No one knows for sure, he said, his voice heavy with the weight of the unknown. Some say it was a natural disaster, a cosmic event that wiped out their civilization. Others whisper of a great war, a conflict that tore the humans apart from within. But the truth is lost to the ages. He leaned forward, his eyes boring into the younger Iridians with an intensity that was almost physical. But the Iridians we never forgot, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. We honor the humans' memory even now. That's why we have the rule, kid. We don't kill humans because to do so would be to betray everything they stood for, everything they taught us. The younger Iridian nodded slowly, a newfound understanding dawning in his eyes. I see now, he said, his voice hushed with reverence. The humans, they changed the Iridians, made them better, and even though they're gone, their legacy lives on. Gruss smiled, a sad, wistful smile that seemed to hold the weight of 1,000 years. That's right, kid, he said, his voice soft with memory. The humans, they showed us a different way, a path beyond war and conquest. And it's up to us, to the Iridians, to carry that legacy forward, to be the warriors the humans knew we could be. The younger Iridian rose to his feet, his jaw set with determination. I understand now, Gruss, he said, his voice ringing with conviction. I'll honor the humans' memory in my own way. I'll be a warrior, but not just any warrior. I'll be a warrior like Karl Scorer, fighting not for glory or conquest, but for something greater than myself. Gruss nodded, a glint of pride shining in his eyes. Then you'll do just fine, kid, he said, his voice gruff with emotion. Just remember, no matter what happens, no matter how dark things get, we don't kill humans. We honor them, always. The younger Iridian nodded, a solemn vow etched into the very fiber of his being. Always, he repeated, the word, a sacred oath upon his lips. And with that, he turned and strode out of the cantina, his steps sure and purposeful as he ventured forth into the unknown. The universe stretched out before him, vast and infinite, full of dangers and challenges that would test the very limits of his resolve. But he was ready, armed with the knowledge and wisdom of a species long gone but never forgotten, to face whatever lay ahead. If you finished this story, please subscribe and like the video. Then leave a comment that says, I liked the story, and I will heart every single one of them. It really helps me. Thank you for your time.